Good afternoon. This is July 3rd, right before the July 4th vacation day and weekend. I wanted to do a brief update about the Board of Pardons and their reviews in June, as well as answer some questions about why it takes so long. We had 10 clients that were reviewed in June, and I went through just to make a note of when these cases were filed and how long the actual review process took, as well as some notes about what the crimes were, because one of the ever-shifting considerations that we have when we watch the Board of Pardons review things is when do they review a felony, what's too soon, what's too late, when do they review misdemeanors, are they really expediting marijuana cases? And we have some answers from the Pardon Board in June. Out of the 10 cases, and I believe all of them were recommended, one of them was a 30-year-old burglary, so felony, but 30 years old. Interesting, the board actually reviewed that in a year and a half. So it was an old felony. It did not count for expedited review, but they reviewed it in as little as a year and a half. And so that shows a 30-year-old burglary is probably going to be reviewed pretty quickly. Here's a felony marijuana case that was 21 years old. So felony marijuana from 2 decades ago, and they reviewed that in 1.5 years. This was an 11-year-old misdemeanor theft. So now we're coming down from 20 to 11, a misdemeanor. But that took 3 years to review. So an 11-year-old misdemeanor took 3 years for the Pardon Board to review, but they did grant and approve and recommend that pardon to the governor. As you could guess, here's a 32-year-old marijuana felony. They reviewed it in 1.58 years, and that was also recommended. So another case was a 12-year-old felony that was marijuana, and they reviewed that and recommended it in 1.48 years, basically 1.5 years. So old cases and marijuanas are moving pretty quickly. It's also possible that the board deliberately took old cases and marijuana cases for the reviews in June in order to have that kind of speedy review sort of factored in. Here is a 27-year-old felony marijuana case. We marked it as expedited, and they reviewed it in 1.46 years. So they're under 18 months at least on those. Here is a 23-year-old drug felony, 1.46 years. Oddly enough, they expedited that review. It was not marijuana. So it's old, it's a felony, not marijuana, very quick review and a recommendation to the governor. Here's a simple little 8-year-old felony marijuana, and they reviewed that in 1.3. So let's call that a year and a quarter. So that definitely hit a sweet spot. And finally, a 24-year-old felony marijuana case that they reviewed in a year and a half. It's amazing just from reading through that and thinking about it that these old cases have affected people, for decades, affecting housing, employment, education, opportunities, cash flow, all of that. And yet when the pardon was filed, they were all recommended to the board, and at least in those cases, at least in that sampling, the review process was basically under 18 months. More complicated cases, multiple dockets, they're still going to go through the regular 2 to 3 year process. And in fact, one of the things I wanted to share was that the Board of Pardons has been estimating that they have about a 2,000 case backlog, and that they might be extending their review process to 3 to 4 years or more as they work through this backlog. So you have to factor that in when you're thinking about when you want to get started. If it's a 3 to 4 year review process, you really need to factor it in. In fact, I had 2 calls today, oddly enough, guys that want to move to Florida. Florida is apparently becoming very popular. And they have old misdemeanors. They weren't happy when I said they would take 2 to 3 years to get pardoned, but they were interested in clean slate. And I'm also going to be doing a Clean Slate 3.0 explainer video, because the Clean Slate 3.0 statute is very complicated. It is possible to find out whether or not it's eligible for petition-based sealing or automated sealing. I think what we're going to end up doing is recommending that everybody get a Pennsylvania State Police criminal history and a clean slate review, so that we can actually sit down with the record and the flow charts and figure out if we can quote a fee for clean slate. Now, the handy thing about clean slate is it's as fast as an expungement. So in 3 to 4 months after we're retained, that record should be hidden, and the state police should confirm to us when it is hidden. The thing that I have never liked and will continue to dislike about clean slate is that it hides the record, but it's still there. Law enforcement has it to use against you. The FBI has it to use against you. It doesn't need to be disclosed to landlords and employers, but depending on the background check that they ask for, they will get the hidden record, and then it's still being used against you. So don't forget, even while we talk about clean slate in every video, every sealed charge needs a pardon to wipe it out. The pardon wipes it out from the public, wipes it out from the criminal justice agencies, state police, FBI, everybody. So the pardon is the real deal. In fact, these guys that need the clean slate quotes or service are also going to start a pardon. So we're going to do the clean slate to hide the thing within 3 to 4 months so they can move to Florida. And then we're going to start the pardon to actually erase the part that's on the back end. So stay tuned for more videos about Clean Slate 3.0 and the research that we're offering. I want to talk a little bit about the board members on the Board of Pardons and their background. Everybody probably sort of knows this, but we deal with it all the time. The head of the Board of Pardons is Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis, who is the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, and he chairs the board. Also on the board is Harris Gubernick, who I believe is a PhD member of the Department of Corrections. He's the Department of Corrections expert. Dr. Williams is the board psychiatrist. I'm going to apologize for forgetting that victim advocate's name. But she sits there and she would basically reflect on the victim's point of view to the board members. And also, Marcia Grayson is her name. Sorry, Marcia. Thank you, Anna. And finally, we have Attorney General Michelle Henry. And so you have the head law enforcement officer reviewing these things, the Lieutenant Governor. And this also factors into another answer of why it takes so long. You have to get the Lieutenant Governor, the Attorney General, a psychiatrist, a guy in the Department of Corrections, and a victim witness advocate all together once or twice a month. And they do meet over 9 times a year, but they just get very, very busy. And now there's a 2,000 case backlog. So we'll keep you posted on that. Upcoming dates that we're going to be tracking and possibly recording and live streaming. There are merit reviews August 1st at 9 a.m. A merit review is where the board meets and very quickly covers a slew of cases to see if at least 2 of the 5 board members vote to give them a public hearing. So the merit review, we're looking for 2 out of 5 votes to get the public hearing. That would be 6 months later, and there is no public representation. There is no Zooming for the merit reviews. There's simply the board meeting and very quickly, maybe about 10-15 seconds per case, voting to see if the board is giving 2 votes for the case to move forward. If they don't get the votes, the rules say you're declined, you're denied, and you have to wait a year before you ask again. We're also looking forward to public hearings on September 12th and 13th. Now those are for commutations, meaning those hearings are specifically for incarcerated individuals. And I don't even know if they're live streamed or not, but it's a calendar date, so we're telling you about it. Public hearings on the pardon cases are October 8th, 9th, and 10th of this year, and we will be tracking those and giving you information about them ahead of time. There's another merit review, as we talked about. Those are merit reviews on commutations, November 7th, and merit review on pardons, December 5th. So for people with pardons, the important dates are August 1st is a merit review. Public hearings are October 8, 9, and 10, and merit reviews on pardons are December 5th, 2024. And we will send out notices before each of those things, along with the link, so you can watch the Board of Pardons do their very important work. And so I think that's all I have for right now, but go have a great July 4th. Happy Independence Day, and we'll get back to you more later. Thank you.